Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 65 of the On Air Advocate. And today, this is a special edition. Over here at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I'm the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited that you are here this afternoon joining us, or if you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you are tuning in today or listening to the replay and you think that this content could be relevant for anyone that you know, please share the love and hit the share button. So with that said, I am very excited today to have Erik Barber, who is the president, and Jill Snyder, the manager of social services over at Inspiration Ministries, with us today to share some information about their residential living that they have, as well as some other things like retreats, camps, that sort of thing. So welcome, guys.
Hey, Tammy.
Thank you.
Glad to have you guys here to shed some light, because this is an area that people can take advantage of if they live here in the state of Wisconsin, because that's where this is located. But also you do have people that can come from outside the state, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I don't know which one of you want to take it away, just kind of starting with what is Inspiration Ministries all about, kind of your mission, and then we'll go from there into deeper questions.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to start. Inspiration Ministries has been around for about 70 years. So we have a very rich heritage here in Walworth County, which is in southeast Wisconsin. And so we've been in the business of serving people with intellectual and developmental disabilities for those years. So we provide residential housing for about 73 people today in assisted living, but also in independent living arrangements. We have a retreat center on our property as well, where we put on camping and retreat programs for people with disabilities. We really emphasize work as well. So our residents work on campus here in a number of different areas. They work around the community as well. And as a Christian organization, the spiritual component of what we do is a big piece of what we do as well. So that's kind of an overview.
And so you provide, if we were to look at the different services that you provide, so you provide more of that, the residential living, but you provide like some full care where it's more assisted versus just more independent.
Yes,
that's right.
As well.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the more assisted end of things, what are the things that you offer within that, assistance kind of area?
Yeah. So we have right now about 45 residents who live in our assisted living facility. And we have really an age range anywhere from 23 years old, years old all the way up to about 85 years old. So there's a broad range. And as part of assisted living, we can provide up to 28 hours of assisted care for people with disabilities. Okay. So that's like things such as assistance with hygiene needs, bathing needs, dispensing medications, and those types of kind of relatively minor nursing care duties. So It's really, Inspiration Ministries in the assisted living side is really about providing people who have both intellectual and developmental disabilities with a place where they can live and a place where they can have independence. They just need some extra help to lead an independent life.
Okay. Now, with the assisted side of things, if you're at more of a little bit more of like a nursing level care for different cares that you need aside from just help with your activities of daily living, do you guys provide that within that 28 hours, or is that something separate, or is that kind of outside of the scope? I know we talked about that a little bit the other day, kind of what is the scope and what's outside of the scope?
Yeah, the skilled care would be outside of our scope. But we just do the assistance with daily living skills. And then we have the meals and activities and, transportation services.
Okay. And those skilled care, so you have anyone that resides there that utilizes, has skilled care come in, but they still reside living there or no?
Or
that's something that
we do not.
Okay. Okay. Is that something that you do offer, or would you say just because of there not being the extra supports there, you guys do not really, doesn't fit into your model?
That's correct.
It doesn't fit into our model. That's a different regulation. It's a different type of facility that we're just not able to provide that high level of skilled nursing care for residents.
Yeah, typically if they're at that point, Medicare will cover and take them into a skilled care facility.
Okay.
We have known that we have residents that have aged in place for their entire adult life, and they're ending that phase of life, and we are open to hospice coming in. So
okay. Who have stayed with you guys this whole time? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, aside from the living, with the living, you said you guys provide meals then as well. Now, can the people, if they're living independently, they can shop and get their own food and all that sort of thing?
Yes, they have the opportunity to go out shopping. We take them shopping out to the grocery store and Walmart every week at Walmart and every other week to the grocery store.
Okay.
But then they also have independent living residents also have the opportunity to enjoy our meals here for an extra cost.
Okay, so if they decide that they're not going to go out and do the shopping, that's provided there, and like laundry services, all those types of things are provided there, correct?
For assisted living, for independent living, they can participate in all of our activities. They can use our transportation. They can take meals in the dining room. So they are still able to socialize. They're not actually sitting out in an apartment by themselves. They have the opportunities to socialize with peers alike.
Okay, whether they're in independent living or they're in
Right. That's correct.
Higher level living. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, also in the area, I know you guys provide camps. Who are those camps for, and how often do those take place? Like if someone's not going to actually stay there, but they want to partake in your camps that you offer.
Yeah, so I've been at Inspiration Ministries for a year and a half, and last year we brought back our first week of camp for people with disabilities after camp programs were discontinued about 5 or 6 years before, because financially it just was difficult for the organization to continue with those. So we brought back 1 week of camp last year. We had 22 participants in that program. This year, just 2 weeks ago now, we came off of our second week of camp this summer. So we doubled the number of camps that we do. And the plan really is to continue bringing back those programs. The retreat center's been on our property for 40 years, and it's a key part of what we do. Because I think everyone, including people with disabilities, deserve the opportunity to go to camp like all of us did growing up. And the camps really are for adults primarily. But we're looking into the future and seeing what the needs are to expand that camping program as well.
Right, because you guys, obviously we don't have an aerial view of it currently right now while we're talking on this live, but I mean, you guys have how many acres of land does this sit on?
It's about 60 acres.
Okay, of land, and there's a retreat center, like a camp, kind of like a campsite. Is there a pool that they can utilize?
Yes, and down on the other end of this building that we're in right now, there is a pool, fully accessible pool. And that is used, I think, more often in the last couple of years than maybe I think in previous years as well. Fitness, mobility, getting our residents moving is very important. So we're trying to bring back that program as well, and to give residents the opportunity to get that exercise that they need.
Yeah, we also have community residents that can, come in and make reservations for our pool use, and we've had scuba diving training in there, lifeguard training in there. So yeah.
Okay. Now, what about a fitness center? Is there a fitness equipment that's on the grounds of the facility?
There is some fitness equipment that we have. We don't have a formal, fitness program. The exercise equipment is there for residents as they want to use it. We have an activities director who will sometimes incorporate some of that, those fitness activities with or without that equipment. But it's something that I think as we move forward and really build our vision for the future, I think we'll be looking more at that, opportunities for wellness and fitness and things like that.
Okay. Now, going back to the off of the topic of any camps or anything like that, back to more of actually the living there. I know that we had chatted about, and I just want to make sure for everyone that have sent me some questions that we answer all of them. So when it comes to whether it is a young adult or whether it is somebody who is, elderly, it doesn't matter in what age range is over the age of 18, what type of transportation do you provide to the people who live on the grounds? And is it something that has to be more scheduled transportation, or is it that if they decide, hey, I want to go to the store or I want to go here today, that they're able to get transportational needs taken care of? Or is it something like if they're in Special Olympics or have an outside activity once a week that they plan that and schedule it for it to happen? How does that work?
Mm-hmm. I'll take that.
Okay. For our assisted living residents, they're basically on a schedule for their appointments and that kind of thing. And they're typically all-inclusive contract with family care funding. So that's all free of charge. And they can just, if they want a special little outing that they want to go with their friend to lunch, they just have to give a 24-hour notice for that. For independent living residents, it's the same. They can do that. There is an extra cost. But for all you Walworth County people out there, you know that we were lucky enough to get a grant here in Walworth County for transportation services, since we are a rural county without public transportation. And it's very reasonable. It's like $2.50 for somebody with a disability. And I think they have, I don't know what the criteria, I think it's 24-hour notice or so.
Okay.
Scheduled
So
out.
that is out here in Walworth County. That's the wall to wall, correct?
Yes, that's
through
correct.
VIP. And they're
one of the people that contract for that service. Yes.
Okay. So they also come out by you guys along with your own volunteers and your own transportation.
Right.
Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have we're up to 3 big buses, 2 minivans, and a regular transport van. So we have a pretty good fleet.
Okay.
And then for like churches, with church volunteers, we have 6 different churches in the area who will come onto our property on Sunday morning and use our buses to take them out to our residents to various churches. And that is free of charge including with independent living residents.
Okay. Now, just so that everyone knows exactly kind of I guess you'd say the demographic, the scope of the individual that you guys are looking for. I know we talked about that sometimes it can be niche no matter what program or facility that you go to that you serve. We talked about, me and Erica talked about last week a little bit about guardianship. And so Jill, I wanted to know if you could kind of dive a little bit more into that and understanding for those sometimes with significant intellectual disabilities, you know, at the age of 17 years, 9 months, most of us parents go ahead and get full guardianship over, you know, our children to make sure that we can answer questions for them, get their medical needs met and all of that. So in that instance, if someone already has guardianship, but they're coming to, you know, trying to live somewhere in independent living or in more of a residential with somewhat assisted living quarters, where are those perimeters and kind of those blockers for that so people can understand how that works?
I'll try to make you understand. It's kind of a little complex, and I've tried to explain it many, many times, and I feel for families trying to understand this. So I've really tried to break it down. So we have 2 different types of assisted living here. One is, we call it a CBRF, and that's community-based residential facility. Okay. And the other one's an RCAC, and that's a resident apartment care complex. So we have 2 different sets of regulations that we have followed with each one. So CBRF has their own regulations, and RCAC has their own. So in the RCAC regulations, they say nobody can move in to our assisted living RCAC with a guardianship in place or an activated power of attorney for health care. Once they're moved in here, then that's fine. They can get established. Okay, then our CBRF says, yes, you can bring in people with guardians or POAs for that are activated, but this is where the federal comes into play. So because the state is using some federal dollars, the state has to follow their requirements for our CBRF. And they're saying the federal government says that they have to have an IQ of 76 or higher in order to be in our CBRF. If they have the guardian and their IQ is 75 or lower, they have to go in an 8-bed or less. That's not our rules. That's
Right.
just what they did. And we're a 16-bed. So we're too big. So I really run into that because I see a trend that, guardianship is, really, it's very important. I understand that. But that's where we run into issues here in our facility.
Right.
Typically, if they're developmentally disabled, their IQ is usually lower than
Right.
70.
Lower than 70, yeah.
Yeah, and some of that's testing, but some of that's how it really is, even though they're very, very high functioning. So that's because of the federal dollars.
Right. And it's good to be, I think it's such a positive thing to be transparent about it, because as caregivers at whatever age that you're at, as you're going through different facilities and looking for different programs and whatnot, sifting through and knowing, okay, this program is appropriate and this program isn't appropriate, or this program might be appropriate and I should just apply anyways. It is very, very helpful in, consuming time and making sure your energies are going to the right place. So you would say that obviously if you have guardianship, if you're falling below that, probably Inspiration Ministries would not be a good fit.
Unless you're not getting if you're not receiving state funding, then it could work.
If you're not receiving any SSI or anything like that.
No, state funding.
Okay.
Medicaid.
Like Medicaid. Okay.
Yeah, family care.
Iris, any of those things. Okay.
Or community care. Yeah. So if we private pay, then we're not taking federal dollars from the state for their care here. So that's what's changes. But what I don't know, I'm sure you probably discussed this on your advocacy site about how the trend is to get people out into the community. People with disabilities, we want them out in the community. We want them working in the community. We don't want them to be institutionalized. So, we meet those requirements, but I found that because that trend is states saying, no, you're too independent. You can't live in assisted living. We won't pay for it. So they're pushing them into apartments, and that's where our independent living really becomes helpful. I think that's really a niche for us because you're not sticking them in the community itself, in the city or wherever.
Right.
Apartment. Instead, they're still in a safe, protected environment. They still have the ability to participate in activities and socialize and, go with Special Olympics, whatever they might do. But they still can live in their own apartment, do their own laundry, manage their own meds, So their state's not going to pay for somebody that's high functional.
Right.
That's where I'm seeing a lot of Lakeland families. That's kind of where they're at. They're at the early 20s phase, and they have, got fairly independent resident or family members.
Right. So what you're saying is that in the apartment setting living, it doesn't matter, or they still have to not have guardianship, obviously.
No, that doesn't. Guardianship doesn't play a role in independent living. I think the role that's played is that they're capable of doing it.
Right.
So going back, as you talked about not wasting time, I feel very much the same way. That's why I try to get have these conversations maybe before they come for a tour. I agree. We don't want to, it's just make things worse for them. But I'm always happy to help them, manage
right.
at the same time.
And see what could possibly, work. But for your apartment living, it is someone who obviously an individual that can live pretty independently themselves, can administer their medications by themselves, and is not, doesn't obviously have guardianship. I mean, you're saying it doesn't matter, but clearly if they can't make those decisions by themselves, then they probably would be independent. But it gives definitely a safe haven, is what you're saying, for someone to live. You're living on these 68 acres where there are people that are there, because there is people there 24 hours a day.
Yeah, we have staff on in the site for 24/7, and they're awake staff. So, and then the doors are locked at a certain time. So the apartment buildings are very well protected. And
So it
it's
kind of adds that extra safety measure,
yeah.
for families, as well as giving them, if they're living that apartment living, they can come in and still do all those recreational activities with
Yes.
everybody else, correct?
Socialize with,
And they can
yeah,
still use the
socialize with
transportation.
with peers alike, and so our community here, our residents, assisted or independent, they're very inclusive of one another. So it's a
Mhm.
very caring environment. So, and they
Right.
are, what one thing we don't do is behaviors, high behaviors like they're hitting, biting, swearing. That's
Okay.
beyond our scope.
Okay. That's behind the scope as well. Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
All right. And I think I'm just thinking if there's anything else we miss. Funding, and any dollars that might go towards the fees. Where do you guys find out? Obviously, somebody who lives out of state, that's a whole different ball of wax, like we talked about. If you
Mhm.
don't live here and then you're coming here and then you're trying to transfer your services, obviously you guys can't know, I guess, exactly, right? I would assume it would be very difficult
Um,
to know that ahead of
I've
time.
I've gotten pretpretty good at navigating it. I
Okay.
work with the families on that. We've got many people that come here from out of state, and we just take it step by step by step, and I walk them through it. And of course, first thing is get here into Wisconsin, then you're eligible for Medicaid. So kind of start with
Okay.
Aging and Disability Resource
Resource
Center,
center.
and then apply for get the Medicaid, and then the long-term care funding. And so yeah,
Okay.
it's just, but we'll take it in little steps. Yeah.
Okay. And so what type of funding, though, if you're in the state of Wisconsin, like right now, what kind of funding can you use towards, whether is it a monthly fee or a rental fee, or how does that work?
For assisted living, we have what's called a CMO. Our CMO, they're managing Medicaid dollars. They're managing state dollars. And so we have family care funding. And
Okay.
the family care funding in Walworth County anyway, they can get IRIS, which is self-directed,
Mhm.
where you might have somebody in independent living that has a caregiver come in, and they want to select their own caregivers rather than use our assisted living. And then there's Community Care of Wisconsin. So with them, if they're in assisted living with Community Care of Wisconsin, they have to typically pay a room and board or some sort of cost share. And typically that's all but $100 out of their Social Security check. So, but
Okay.
everything is included. I mean, transportation, meals, help with their ADLs, activities. I mean, all they need to pay for with that $100 is maybe personal hygiene items or just personal spending money.
Okay. So that
Yeah,
covers basically everything,
right.
all of it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then for independent living, typically people are independent living, they'll choose IRIS. I can't tell you, they can't, EDRC can't tell you, but typically that's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's self-directed, and then that's up to each caseworker. If they see the need where the person can't prepare meals, maybe they'll cover the meal cost. They need help with transportation costs, they'll cover that. So, but they won't help with rent. So,
Okay.
Got
Got
that's
it.
independent living.
And I'll just add too on the assisted living side that we are a nonprofit organization, and so our MCO basically will fund about $100 per day per resident just to live at Inspiration Ministries, room, board, and so on.
And assisted.
In assisted living. And the cost to be able to provide care here, which is very modest cost to live here, it's about $128. So every single day that passes, it's $28 per day per resident for about 45 residents. And that's what we have to go out and raise money. We have to raise about $500,000 every year just to bridge that gap. And so I've been learning the last number of months about the number of places that have closed down in the last year. 14 long-term care facilities in the state of Wisconsin closed last year. So we are, it's becoming harder and harder to find good places to place individuals with disabilities and others that need long-term care as well. So we truly are unique, and I think we're a special place that is unlike any other facility in the state, and there are very few like us around the country as well.
Yeah, that's true. And I get a lot of phone calls from out of state, from families where they're telling me the funding in their state is just horrible. They can't get any. And I don't know. I think we have pretty decent funding here in the state of Wisconsin, but we're certainly not taking care of our disabled by any means. So, yeah.
Right. Now, do you feel like all of those closures have really been due to the high costs, the demand of, just the amount of staffing and the amount of people that you need to keep these facilities running?
Yeah, costs are rising. There's a caregiver crisis in the state of Wisconsin, which compounds everything, and they're just not sustainable. So I'm sure every situation is different, but I know, I think the common thread with all of them would be the caregiver issue and rising costs and the reimbursement that it isn't there for facilities for people like those that live here.
Yeah, that's a big one, reimbursement, because if you have somebody that's, very, very high functioning, say Down syndrome, but they're eligible for assisted living, they're not quite as much to take care of. But you have somebody with cerebral palsy that is a 2-person transfer, that changes everything. And we're getting paid the same amount of money either way. So what I'm seeing is people that are 2-person transfers, there's a lot of facilities that won't take it anymore if they're on community or family care funding, because it's just it doesn't even come close to covering the cost.
Right. And I have heard that the more interviews I do and the more scope that I go outside of Wisconsin, I mean, this is a whole issue across the United States. It really, really is. And some states, do a few things better, and then other states do other few things better. And I wish that I could take all the things that I see that are like, this is perfect, and this is perfect, and this is perfect, and bring it all to, to one place. But it seems like it's so widespread that way. At Inspiration Ministries, what would you say, looking at some of the other long-term residential facilities that are out there, is different, whether it is the landscape, whether it is the services provided, whether it is the beauty of it in the summer and then the winter, the snow in the winter. What are those things that you think make it kind of different from some of the other ones that you have seen or have learned about over time?
I'm just going to talk on a portion of that because, when you're going into smaller group homes, or adult family homes, typically you're going to see a lot more behaviors, or you've got very low functioning people that really don't communicate. So we're large enough, but we have such a good, we're very careful, first of all, of who we bring in as part of our community. So we don't have that behaviors, and everybody's very high functioning mentally, or at least socially.
Okay.
You can speak to that.
Yeah, I think, so what makes us unique, I think, we have our number one, our heritage. We've been around for 70 years, which is huge. I mean, for any nonprofit to be around this long and to struggle as we have for those years, caring for this population is a challenge. As I've gotten out and talked to organizations and legislators and lobbyists, they've said, most organizations limit a certain number of beds or a percentage of beds or apartments for this type of population. So, because it's a financial model that they have. 99% of our residents, have very lacking funding, and that's why we serve them. There's a population here that has significant needs that we feel called to specifically serve them. So I think the fact that we're dedicated solely to people with disabilities, so we don't limit based on funding sources, I think that makes us unique. I think also that the spiritual component of what we do, the Christian environment that we provide here, a key part of what we do and what we believe is central to every one of us as human beings, the spiritual part of us. And so we focus on that here heavily. We have a chaplain who is on staff. We have weekly chapel services. So our chaplain will provide chapel services to our staff as well. And it's a big part of who we are as well. I don't know if you'd add anything else on that.
I probably would.
If you think of it. So the last layer to this is, if someone's listening to this and they do feel like, for my loved one, this is a spot that I think would be a good fit. After listening to what you guys have to say, this is a place that I would like to learn more about, that I think that they would fit in to the demographic that you guys have there at Inspiration Ministries. What is the next layer of process that they would take? Would it be a call? Would it be an application online? I mean, what are those next steps? Just starting the process.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, like we start, as I talked, a little bit pre-screen, and then we'll set up a tour. We'll certainly, before we get to the application process, we might want to make sure that they like it, and you can call me, social services manager, and we'll set up a tour and we'll show the facility. And if, they really like it, and I will say 99% of the people I've given tours to really like it. And really want their loved one here. And then I give them an application. So then they fill out an enrollment application, and then I'll take the enrollment application to our admissions discharge team. We have a whole team of people. It's not just one person making that decision. It's 5 different people making that decision. It's our manager care team. And then we look at that application and say, yeah, I think this is something that looks like something we can do. So then we do an assessment. So for our assessment, it's from head to toe. I mean, we want to know as much about that person as we possibly can. Then we'll go out and ask for medical records. We'll send out for medical records, and we're going to gather as much information as we can, even psych records, whatever we can find. And then we all get together and we'll go through the records, and then we'll meet again as a team and say, is this something that we can do? Can we meet this person's needs? And then hopefully we can say yes, but we never want to be dishonest or make a promise of something we don't feel that we can't keep, because I don't think it's fair to the person, and it's not fair to our staff either. So we really want to be careful to bring the right people in. So it is quite a process. And then we get to the admissions process, and it's a lot of paperwork and all that.
Right. From many that I have talked to, I feel like it's about 9 touches or more, by the time you've seen the facility, give you count every time that you've done something before you're actually to that final process. It feels like it's at least 2 handfuls. But I do think that it is positive in the sense that we need to make sure that it is the perfect fit, for our loved ones, especially if someone is moving from out of state or something like that, for that transitional period. So what I am going to do is we'll drop below this live that information. So would it be best if we're just dropping the website for them to go to, and then will they be able to get to admissions that way?
Yeah, certainly can find us on our website.
Yeah, okay. inspirationministries.org. And then we also have a Facebook page.
We'll drop that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of see pictures of the kind of things that residents are doing here. And give them a good flavor of what's going on here.
That sounds great. So we'll drop that stuff below. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add, or that you feel like we may have missed that you want to let the audience know about?
I'd just say, we are, as I said on that front end of this, we're in the process right now of building our vision for the future. We've been around for 70 years. We're looking forward to another 70 plus years ahead. So, we're looking now at what's next for us. I said assisted living is a challenge to consider in the short term, but there's other things that we're going to be doing to serve the disabled population in unique and fresh ways. So be watching for us, I guess is all I'd say.
That is great. That is great, because I'll be watching it. We can come back on again as soon as all those things launch and all those pieces of the puzzle come back together, to see other opportunities, because I think it's great, because we definitely do need to continue this to grow, because it's not, though there are less resources out there and less establishments, it doesn't make that there's less people that have different abilities.
That's right. So we're going to make a way. We're committed to this people group, and we're committed to finding a way. There's no easy answers, but we're going to find ways.
Yeah, and then the other thing I'd like to add is, we had talked before, is we were one of the very first disability camps in the United States, And that's kind of how we ended up getting people coming in from all over the United States coming here for our camp way back when. And then they decided they liked it so much. So we've had residents here that came here in their young 20s, and they have aged in place here, and they're up to in their 80s. So I guess what I really like to say is we're in this for the long haul. When we commit to a resident and a family, we are committed, and we're in this. We want to, do whatever we can to make their life, long here and make it a long time experience for them. And
Right.
Basically their home. Yeah.
I love that, Jill. I always say we're in it for the long run. This isn't a short sprint. This is a marathon. And so that is great that you guys provide that. I love your honesty on the platform and just putting it all out there and letting the folks know, about the opportunities that are available at Inspiration Ministries. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate your time this afternoon, spending over half an hour with us.
All right.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tammy.
So thank you so much, Jill. Thank you, Erik. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you want any more of our content on our podcast, our YouTube tutorial videos, or if you want any more information about the services we offer over at the On Air Advocate, you can just go to onairadvocate.com and you can find them all there. Also, right at the top of this Facebook page, there is a blue tab that you can push to push visit group. That will put you into our private group where we have interactions every day and throw out questions and answers and all those other great things. So on that note, everybody have a fabulous afternoon, and thank you again, guys.
Thanks, Tammy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.